The 5 video games that have changed for the better. Can a bad game become good? A coup d'etat patch, many titles change his face. What has made them better? What if the games as a service has earned a bad reputation among fans for many reasons, some of which are related with some very questionable releases that have done a disservice to the industry. However, the coverage post-lanzamiento that ensures this type of production has led to many positive things, and that is that many video games that have begun its journey so hesitant have seen how they have been able to improve everything that was not properly terminated, or even change things that seem positive about the role but not just to convince the fans. What are the video games that have evolved with patches? How much have you changed? Could any move from being forgettable to become essential? We tell you. Destiny today, with the tremendous evil that has evolved Destiny 2, hard to remember what does not even 4 years launched a first part, certainly controversial. The foundations of the game as to how bright it were, his shootings and the potential of your universe admitted little doubt, but there were many confusing elements in terms of interfaces, currency and the progression of the character, in addition to many needs in regard to the amount of content that seemed somewhat short. The first DLC not instilled optimism, but from a series of patches and, particularly, of the expansion of the King of the Possessed, we began to feel that the game was changing and that it began to release their true potential. The diversity needed for a game of these characteristics, one in which we are going to invest many hours, was one of the first areas of attention. Bungie showed patch to patch and a downloadable content that they knew what they had to do to get the desired game. At the end of the life of the first Destiny, the game was exactly what had been promised. What late? Maybe, but it was a journey worth lived next to the shooter. A way forward which has proved to be quite the opposite of the involution suffered by a Destiny 2 encountered in practically every possible obstacle since its release. Square Enix's Final Fantasy XIV, 2010, when Final Fantasy XIV agreed all that was not what the amateur expected. Its quality was highly questionable output in the year 2010, leaving much discontent among the most faithful followers of the brand that, yes, they had already seen other attempts of the mark by addressing the gender of the massively multiplayer online and Final Fantasy XI. Although, with time, the game showed that Square Enix didn't come down the arms with one of its star products and more MMOBA to offer to the Final Fantasy series as an MMO to its height. The work was hard and took many years, but finally today we've got a great title of an online if you do justice to one of the brightest and longest running franchises in the industry. The work was relaunched with the format Final Fantasy XV Online, a realm reborn between 2013 and 2014 with the intention of showing the world that he had learned from the mistakes, and that had greatly improved the formula. By the way, there were abundant expansions, beginning with the rise of the Zillart and through other more recent but much more ambitious as Heavensward of 2015 and the brilliant Stormblood of 2017. All of a quality incontestable and charged to the top of content. One of the best examples of how to lift a title of questionable quality and turn it into an essential. For Honor Ubisoft, 2017. For the Honor is a very curious. Initially began as a very attractive proposition of Ubisoft in a field which, as is usual, seemed too innovative and groundbreaking, almost like any franchise that started the company gala. It was a game of action and adventure based on the hand-to-hand combat and where the main presence was for multiplayer, something that Desco logo to more than one. However, since its start many fans were able to see in the enormous potential that he had, but he was accused of having certain confusing elements in terms of progression. Parts can be improved in terms of their balance and, as if that were not enough, a quantity of content could be improved. finally was cancelled. But even in that, the game has proved to listen to their players, and has managed to reverse a situation in which there was a steady trickle of users who left the ship and retrieved the pulse to have more than 1 million monthly players. There has been some controversy as a price increase that was raised by Ubisoft, but that patent's vehement response of the fans finally was cancelled. But even in that, the game has proved to listen to their players, and has managed to reverse a situation in which there was a steady trickle of users who left the ship and retrieved the pulse to have more than 1 million monthly players. No Man's Sky Hello Games, 2016. For a long time the words No Man's Sky have been synonymous with absolute and total drama. The otherwise estimable game of survival suffered at the time of its release all sorts of criticism for not conform to what your confusing promotion campaign had put on the table. What are the fault of Hello Games? By sin of excess of ambition. Sony blame by knowing what was and still carry out all manner of promises unworkable? We still do not know. What is clear is that from which was used to the sale to that you can enjoy nowadays there are many changes, for the better. They have committed themselves to work, and have released several updates with many of the things that tends to show the gender, such as the construction of bases or land vehicles, elements which, in the final analysis, ensure many more hours for entertainment of the already brought the program. The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt CD Projekt Red, 2015. Not all video games that are part of the special would be controversial and started stumbling. There is also space for others who began his career as video games applauded by critics and fans. Is the case, for example, Bright The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, a memorable title in all senses that, while it was absolutely spectacular at the time of sale, it has done nothing but improve since then. The increase of quality wine on two sides. In the first place, for your correction of bugs and their technological improvements, which became a work of performance, especially in the final third of its version 1.00 for console, in a time bomb, and, moreover, by the recent incorporation of special support for Xbox One X and PS4 Pro. On the other hand, there was a phenomenal job of optimization of mechanical systems, interfaces and playable. One that allowed much greater comfort in the use of the camera, in the detective vision, and that, if that's not enough, also provided the option to reorganize the inventory in a much more logical and accessible. More about Destiny, Final Fantasy XIV, For Honor, No Man's Sky and The Witcher 3.